All right, welcome to seminar. We've got a great lineup for today. Before we get into that, we'll have an opening prayer by Seth Ferris, and then we'll go from there.
Our Father, who art in heaven, we thank you so very much for this opportunity we have to gather together as members of this great university, studying evolution. We're so very thankful, Father, for our professors, for the material that we've learned, and the material we're about to learn. We ask that we will humble enough and open up to the Spirit to learn temporal knowledge as well as spiritual knowledge. Father, we're so very thankful for the Son, Jesus Christ, for his atonement for us. Please help us and seek opportunities to become more like him. We're also very thankful for this opportunity we have this weekend to listen to the speakers of General Conference. We ask that our hearts and our minds might be ready to receive the messages that thou would have us hear. And Father, we ask for a special blessing upon our speakers today. So we do a good job and that we might keep attending this. And these things we say only in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Okay. So, stadium cleanup. There's always information on the blog, but so now we've got established if you help twice, your Rocky Mountain cost will be half. If you help 3 times, that cost is totally covered by ASCE. And if you're not planning to go to Rocky Mountain Conference, you can always use that for your service points. We need volunteers for this. Maggie here?
Yeah. We got a few people to sign up, so that's great. We still need a couple more. So if you can, please sign up.
Yeah.
Are you playing golf or are you just volunteering?
I don't think we're playing golf. I don't think we would have a shortage of sign-ups if that's what we're asking
You're
for.
helping out with like serving meals and cleanup and stuff like that.
Everybody hear that? Not playing golf, but service.
Okay, 1:30.
No. Okay, so I'm just going to let you read this for a second, and then I'll move on. Okay, blood drive coming up. It's on October 11th. More details to follow. Okay, so this is what we're going to be talking about today. Your path to become a world-class civil engineer. And first we're going to hear from Dr. Richards on taking the FE, and then Dr. Schultz about the upper level study abroad programs, and finally we'll hear from Dr. Borg about capstone, and we'll go from that point. All right. Can everyone hear me all right? I'm Dr. Richards. It's a pleasure to be with you. I took Chem 105 in this classroom many years ago. It brings back such wonderful memories. All right. I'm going to talk about the FE exam. What is the FE exam? It's the Fundamentals of Engineering exam. It's administered, it's a national test administered by NCEES. There's 110 questions, mostly multiple choice, and it's taken on a computer at a testing center. Why should you take the FE exam? Employers expect it. When people exit an undergraduating program and start their first job, employers expect them to have passed the FE exam to be an engineer in training, EIT. It's a necessary step toward becoming a professional engineer, and everybody's doing it. It's the cool thing to do. Okay, what is on the FE exam? Wow, you look at that and think, that's a lot of stuff that's on the FE exam. The FE exam, it covers stuff from your 100, 200, 300 level classes. A little bit of the information is from your 400 level classes. You can kind of see the percentage breakdown of the different kinds of stuff. Just a little bit of everything sprinkled throughout the FE exam. When should you take the FE exam? The best time to take the FE exam is after you've completed most of your 300 level classes, so roughly a year prior to graduation. Okay, now some of you might say, there's a lot of stuff on here that I haven't taken classes on yet. I'm not ready to take the FE exam. What you need to appreciate is that you are forgetting stuff almost as fast as you're learning it. Okay, let's be real here. So once you pass, once you get to your last year, you're forgetting some of the stuff that you learned earlier on that you haven't used. The FE exam, it's heavily weighted toward the stuff that's at the beginning of your engineering program, your 200 or 300 level classes. The best time to take it is right as you're getting close to finishing up your 300 level classes. Yeah, you might miss out on a few things that are in 400 level classes, like maybe some of your structural design. Okay, but you will be fresher on a lot of the stuff that's represented more heavily on the exam. Okay, why is it foolish to wait until after you graduate? Some people sometimes miss out on a job opportunity because they're not in engineering training. They haven't passed the FE exam. Like I was mentioning before, the longer you wait, the more you will have forgotten from your earlier classes. And if you wait until after you graduate, as you're preparing for the exam, you won't have a study group to study with because everyone else will have already taken it. All right. One of the reasons why we've been emphasizing the FE as part of our steps toward a professional engineer is we had a drop-off in the number of our students taking the FE exam. What happened? So prior to the year 2012, we typically have about 80 students a year from our program take the FE exam. And then in 2013, 2014, those numbers fell off a cliff. Wow, what shocking thing happened to cause that huge dip? No, good guess. Andy? Yeah, the way they offered the exam. It used to be the FE exam was offered twice a year on a specific date, and everyone in the whole state would go to one location to take the FE exam. And so it's kind of like meat processing, where they just funnel everyone into the slaughterhouse at the same time, and the whole herd mentality, you just did what everyone else was doing, and you took the FE exam the same time as everyone else. Well, what happened in 2013 is they started offering it at these testing centers where you register independently, you go take it at your own convenient time. And what happens is when you're not forced to take it at a particular time, lots of people just never take it. This just reflects human nature right here. The same thing happens to professors and stuff with proposal deadlines. If there's not a deadline, if there's not a date, it just doesn't happen. And so, wow, that was a huge drop. It's like 1/4 the number of people taking it as they used to. Well, it's very important, and so we started to climb back up. Some of these people that didn't take it in 2014 are taking it now, okay? But we want to help you guys. It's really important for your careers to take the FE exam, and the best time to take it is about a year before you graduate. So what we've got going on to help you prepare is this semester we're offering a class called 498R Section 2 FE Review or FE Preparation. Now we're going to offer this class again next semester. It's a 1 credit hour class. We meet once a week on Tuesday afternoons, 4 to 5. The first 8 weeks of the class, we're just reviewing material that's on the FE exam with the idea that people sign up for the class, we're reviewing the first 8 weeks. And then also during that time, people are registering to take the FE exam. So the people that are in this class right now, they're all registered to take the FE exam at the beginning of November. Kind of spread out, everyone's doing their own little day, but we're roughly taking it around the same time. So after week 8, everyone will be ready to take the test. Those that haven't taken the test, they'll continue to meet and we can do some additional practice stuff. So we've got 20 students enrolled right now in that class, which is fantastic. I'm hoping that we'll have a big cohort come through next winter So those of you out there that are finishing up your 300 level courses, maybe if you're only taking 1 or 2 300 level courses next winter, sign up for FE Prep, and hopefully we'll see you there. Let's see, I think I've got time to answer a couple questions. Who's got some questions about the FE exam? Right here.
I don't remember putting my university when I took it. How do you guys compare the state?
They keep track, so I'm not, maybe you just forgot. I think they gather that information when you register for the test.
Are FE exams state specific?
No, it's a national exam, and no matter where you go after you graduate, it's the same exam. The same is true also, by the way, there's a national professional engineering exam that's the same for all states. Some states have extra stuff that you take in addition to that, but everyone has to take the national exams.
Are there grades or is it just pass fail?
Okay, that's a great question. Is there a grade on the FE exam, or is it pass-fail? Pass-fail, and it's not that hard to pass. Our pass rate, typically, back in the old days when everyone was taking it, our pass rate was around 90%. Back, all the people that weren't passing stopped taking it. Our pass rate the past couple of years has been very high, 96%. So hopefully we'll get some more, as we get more people taking it, there might be 1 or 2 more of you that don't pass, but I would rather have 70 people passing per year than 40 in the green hat.
How much does it cost?
How much does it cost? I think it's about $200 to take the test. So you're like, ooh. So when you register for it, you want to make sure you're prepared and pass it. But like I said before, most people will pass, and especially if you're taking it at the optimum time. Wow, these are lots of great questions. I think I can go to 11:15, so let's get a couple more.
I'm not planning on this, but if you did fail the FE, can you retake it? And is there a certain...
Yes, you can take it as many times as you want to shell out your 200.
Is it working if you want to focus on water resources or transportation? Because it didn't look like they were focused on that sort of.
Yeah, this is a general test. Anyone that wants to become a professional engineer in any branch of civil engineering has to pass this test. So it's for everybody. In the very back.
If you take the civil FE and then you work in a different industry, does that qualify for a PE in a different field?
I do not know. I think on the FE they probably will count it. When you get registered as a professional engineer, you'll probably need to take it in the specific field that you're in. I don't know for sure. Okay, maybe one more question. Anyone have one that didn't get answered right here up front?
Is the FE preparation class offered specific semesters in the coming years, or?
Yeah, so for the time being, we're planning to offer it every semester. Not spring, summer, but fall, winter. Okay, thank you for your attention, and hopefully that was good information for you.
Do I need this? Oh, the camera. I don't have a camera. All right, well, so good morning, everyone. Can you hear me now? Yeah. Okay. I needed my cell phone, something like that. So this building didn't exist when I was a student here. Or when Dr. Warp was a student here.
I never was a student.
See? So it didn't exist ever for him. But anyway, yeah, so we're glad to have you all here. The FE, very important. You want to definitely take the FE before you leave school, as Dr. Richards has encouraged you to do so. I took the FE, it was a lot easier when we took it. When I took it in room 377 in the Clyde building. So that was very easy. And at that time, they gave you your score. 70 was a passing score. So some people got it back and it said 69, and it was really unfortunate. But then they quit giving you the scores and just say pass-fail, and so that worked out a lot better. But you do want to have the PE, you want to have the FE, so you get the PE. But I'm here to talk about another aspect of these, 5 different points that we've got here on becoming a world-class civil engineer, and that is study abroad. So I'm gonna talk kind of about study abroad in general, why we want to do study abroad. I'll give you some information about past study abroads, some information about future study abroads, but the future is still the future. So we're still working on exactly where all that's going to go. So I'm going to just talk a little bit, just quickly about globalization and why we even focus on study abroad. Basically everything that you are going to do, you need to be able to be familiar with the global environment, a global world. And so by providing study abroads, we're able to kind of help you with that. This quote says, no matter what area of engineering you enter, your ability to remain on the leading edge and to progress in our organization, this is Ford, but it can tie to civil engineers as well, largely depends on your capacity to connect and communicate globally. At BYU, we have a great advantage that way because many of you have lived in foreign countries. You have had global experiences, but that was a very different experience than your professional global experiences, and so we want to be able to work on those as well. Of course, the world is our campus, so we do want to get out into the world and identify where to go. Now, I've got a couple of quotes here. They're kind of long, but basically what I want you to understand is as a department, we have a civil engineering study abroad vision statement. Just remember that, right? We did talk about this. We do have a vision statement where we want to provide opportunities. Civil engineering is one of those kind of disciplines where we have very large-scale projects. It's very difficult to bring a skyscraper into the classroom in real life. It's difficult to bring the maglev train into the classroom. We can make a toy, but we have these big projects, and so we want to have opportunity to get out and be able to see those and look at how that happens. The other side of this is civil engineering is a very old profession. So it's been around for a long time, and so we've got all these older projects and things that we want to see and learn from and be able to have opportunity to share within the classes. So we believe there's value to having study abroad experiences. And this allows you to learn something you wouldn't otherwise learn. It allows you to work closely with faculty that you may not have opportunity to work with otherwise. And it just gives you a lot of great opportunities. Of course, the challenge with that is we can't offer everything that everybody wants to do, but we do offer what we can. And it's also kind of, we're trying to create a sophomore level program right now that's a lot easier to kind of cover with different faculty. But a lot of it's faculty specific. We as faculty have certain passions and things we want to do. Study abroad, although a lot of people believe that it just is like a big vacation. Teaching a study abroad course is very challenging. It takes more effort than teaching a regular class here on campus. So for us as faculty, it's extra effort. And we have lots of things that we're doing. For you as students, there's extra cost. And hopefully equivalent or maybe even more effort as well. So there's trade-offs in terms of what needs to happen. President Hinckley told us that we need to contribute good to the world. So that's what we want to do as part of this as well. So, as far as the programs that have been or are being offered, some of these are current, some are past, some are still to be determined. But we've had, water resources, international challenges in water resources, Dominican Republic, that's a senior capstone, taught winter semester. There's always a cap on the number of students that can take it. It's always capped out and filled. Great opportunity, though, if you're interested in water resources. We've also in the past had an international challenges in water resources Europe option. Dr. Ames has taught that a couple of times now. That one's not ending. It's still not going to be taught this next year as far as I know, but it'll come back. It'll still be there. So look at opportunities there and talk to Dr. Ames. International challenges in geotechnical engineering. Dr. Jones has taught this course one time. He and myself are looking at, we're focusing on a different program right now, but that one's still potentially an option. Trying to make an infrastructure. Many of you, some of you participated in that. Dr. Balling and myself, and also Dr. Borup have taught that at different times in different ways. I'm still here. Dr. Borup's still here. Dr. Richards is going to start teaching it. Oh, sorry, that's not true. I'm not starting any rumors here. But you know, we can. That one's not dead. People say, "Wow, you guys are never doing that again." I'm not saying never say never. It will not be taught next year. Beyond that, it's still up in the air, but there's great opportunities there as well. And then the new one we're starting right now is a sophomore level course, which none of you really probably are eligible for that. Maybe some. But that one is ENGT 231 and Civil Engineering 201 combination. So that one will start this next year. The application deadline is Sunday. So if you haven't applied yet and you're thinking about applying, you better do it soon. We already have more applicants than we have slots. So we're going to have some decisions to make. So I have till 25 after. Mostly after this, I just have a slideshow. You want to watch pictures or ask questions? Pictures. Anyway, so here's some pictures from this year's China trip. We had some nice, beautiful skies in Beijing, a little bit cloudier in Shanghai. You know, actually, these aren't all from this year, from different years. How many of you have been to Shanghai? Pretty good group there. It's a big city. Lots of people. This is in Beijing, actually, traffic. This is out in the country. There is a little bit of traffic, a little bit of transportation issues in China. So it's a great opportunity to go there. Public transportation, private transportation. These are construction workers. This is their truck. You know, you go to a construction site in the U.S. and there's a whole bunch of trucks parked out there, right? In China, it's bikes. They ride their bike to work. I'm still pretty sure this is the largest pedestrian roundabout in the world, but I can't verify that. It's the largest I've ever seen. Then we have other, you know, very different living circumstances and opportunities. This is out, just kind of out in the countryside, outside of Yichang. We've also got a lot of different technologies. We go to universities when we go to China. This is where that picture of us in front of a house, that house actually is right there. So we were going there every year for a long time, and this lady who lived there kept seeing us every year. So finally, this year when we visited with her, but the year before, maybe 2 years before, anyway, we went. She finally came out and she started talking to us. Chinese. Luckily that year we had a Chinese student with us, so we were able to have communication. She took us to her house, showed us all around. It's kind of fun. This picture is taken from a bridge, not an airplane. There's a few containers in Hong Kong. And of course we do go to the temple in Hong Kong. And then just really quickly, our new program, it's kind of the same, again, infrastructure based, but in a European scale. So we're going to go to Rome, look at the structures and transportation, geotech. This is Dr. Jones's group that he took last time. Temple, maybe one of these times it'll be done. I took that picture last summer when I was there, and it just kind of keeps going. We're going to Florence. Check out this little tower that people talk about it a lot. This little geotech challenge. Paris. Lots of metro systems, transportation options, and then we'll go to the Netherlands, talk about water resources, as well as transportation options there. Somewhere. Here we go. So those are some of the opportunities. If you have things that you like, talk to us, see what kinds of things are there. I've got a video on the Dominican, but we don't have time to watch that one. But this one's online. You can go look up a study in water And there's a really cool presentation that the university did this year that talks about that program. So it's very, very excellent in terms of what was done there. So I have negative 2 minutes. Any questions? Negative questions. One question.
Are they still doing the China study abroad and how long is that?
So the China study abroad, right now it's on hold. We'll have to see when that one comes back. It's just kind of dependent upon faculty, but it for sure will not be taught this spring, maybe the next. It was a spring term course, although it actually starts in the winter semester with a prep class. And that'll be the same with the new infrastructure class. We'll actually start winter with the prep class, and then it goes into spring in the back, and then everything.
Are any of these offered in the summer?
No, nothing summer term, sorry.
When will you know about programs offered in spring?
We usually try and get those, figured out by the end of winter semester. So usually by spring 2018, we'll have an idea what's going to come up spring 2019. All right, well, thank you. If you have any questions, you can come talk to me, or Dr. Nelson, or Dr. Jones, or Dr. Ames, any of them.
Okay, well, right now, I am the person who teaches the capstone class in the department. And you saw the 5 kind of steps to becoming a world-class engineer, and one of those steps that's been included is the capstone class. The reason for a capstone class actually mostly stems from an organization that accredits engineering programs throughout the country. It's called ABET. And they require all engineering programs to have what they call a capstone class, where students, kind of a culminating experience for your coursework, where you can have an opportunity to kind of put everything to work that you've learned and also learn some new things. So at BYU, we have a little bit of a different capstone class than many places, and I want to talk just a little bit about that. We're trying to make our capstone program be kind of an example, or maybe a little bit of a pre-work experience, I guess, kind of like an internship. You're actually kind of working as an engineer. So basically in our capstone program, what we have is a program where, well, let's step back a little bit about it. You saw the slides that Dr. Schultz showed about study abroad, that there were some study abroad programs that you could get capstone experience for. Right this year, the only one that's being offered is the Dominican Republic. We don't know what's going to happen for sure in the future. That program will probably happen in the future, maybe some others that you can get capstone credit for. But all of you here are going to have a capstone experience in one way or another. So there's these study abroad programs. Some of them offer capstone experience. The one for sophomore levels will not. That's not a capstone program. That'll be 201 and 231 credit. So don't plan on taking that and getting capstone credit. So the other option besides study abroad for getting capstone is a course that the department offers. And it's 471 and 472. So it's a 2-semester long course. It's 1 credit hour, 1 semester, and 2 credit hours each semester. So it's 3 total credit hours. You have to take it before you graduate, and it's only offered in the fall and the winter term. So plan ahead. You need to be enrolled in that class or have some capstone experience before you can graduate. In the capstone class, the way we operate that is we have a bunch of projects. We have a new member of our faculty, part-time member of our faculty, his name's Dr. Wayne Lee. Many of you have met him, who was hired principally to work on our capstone program and to kind of develop projects that we can do in our capstone program. So he goes out all over the state and he gets all these projects that we can do. And then we divide up into teams where each team is going to have a graduate student that's kind of like the boss or the foreman of the project. And there's a faculty member that each team will work with. And you solve a real-world engineering problem. So the idea is to use the skills you've learned in your classes, but also develop some kind of what we would call soft engineering skills. Learn how to work with teams. Learn how to work with a client. Learn how to do business in civil engineering, how to develop business, how to get jobs, how to make a scope of work, how to just develop business things and relationships with customers. And so we kind of look at this as kind of a win-win kind of a situation where we're doing something nice for clients, but also you as students are benefiting from having a work experience. The coursework, or the work that you do here is going to be put up on our website, and employers can potentially come and look at your work and have an example of the kind of work that you do in engineering. And it helps, I think, a little bit, give you a little step up to some people who don't have that kind of experience. This is an outline of our program. So you're assigned to these teams, you have a graduate student mentor. Once you start on the project, you go meet with your sponsor. Your sponsor will explain the project to you, and then your team is going to develop a strategy to do the work to be able to meet the needs that this client or this sponsor has. At the end of that, you present your work in a presentation to your sponsor, and here in seminar we'll have a little presentation from each of the teams. And then we'll also, you'll make a poster, and you can see the posters of any of the projects out in the hallways up on the 3rd floor of the Clyde building. So that's a real general overview of Capstone. You can learn a lot more about it at the department website. If you go to the department website, there's a Capstone tab. If you click on there, you can go and learn all about Capstone. There's all sorts of information that's contained there about past projects and current projects and the teams, and this is where we present the information. So all of last year's project, you can see their reports that they developed and the posters that they made and the presentations they made. All of those things are available. You can kind of go look at those things right now. Just to give you an idea of projects, this is a poster from one of the projects last year. It was called Low Impact Development Approaches Effectiveness and Functionality. This is a program that the state is starting where when you go and do land development in a city, you have to do some things to lessen the impact that project has on the environment. And they were assessing that to see how well that worked out. Let me just show you. This is kind of the big project we have going on this year in Capstone. It's called Arrowhead. This is in Spanish Fork. The south end of Spanish Fork City, there's a large section of land that a guy owns. His family's owned it since back in the 1920s. There's a building on it that you can see there that was built back in the 20s. And he's trying to decide what to do with this property right now. So the Capstone class is evaluating the structure of this building and what might he do with all this land. And they're looking at how you need to do permits and what possibilities and options there are for that. This is a big subdivision that W.W. Clyde's doing right by his development. So he thought, well, maybe we can kind of link with them in this project that we have. So basically, that's an idea of the kind of project. We have 5 teams working on this project. One's doing structural stuff, one environmental stuff. One is doing transportation and planning, and then 2 teams are kind of doing an overall kind of thing. So that's real quickly Capstone. You'll hear a lot more about Capstone as we go on here during the term. At the end of the winter term, each of the Capstone teams will do a presentation on their project then, so you can learn more about that. Do you have any questions about Capstone? That's just a real quick overview. Then, oh, wait. Yes?
$1 million
much is a capstone / study abroad average, like $5 grand, 20 grand?
Well, the study abroad one, it really just depends. The Dominican Republic program, I think, is less than $2,000, if I remember right. If you go to the Europe study abroad, well, it's not going to be a capstone, so.
So like 35, 4,000.
Yeah, right around there. They're really heavily subsidized by the university as it ends up. If you're going to travel to those places, the university subsidizes it quite a bit. Plus, the cost for those programs includes the tuition cost for the credit hours of the classes that you take. This capstone doesn't cost anything. It's just a regular class. Well, it costs what your credit hours are for your class. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes?
Does the Dominican Republic trip happen during the semester, or is it?
It does, yeah, it happens winter semester. They go for a week or 10 days during the middle of the semester. Okay, well, I'm going to turn the time over to Monty Marshall, who's going to talk to us a little bit about some career kinds of things. Thanks.
All right, well, I'm thrilled to be able to talk to you for just a couple of minutes. I typically spend 50 minutes talking about this, so I'm going to go really, really fast. I've got 10. We're going to go quickly. How many of you went to the STEM fair last week? Anybody get an interview recently? Wow, several of you. Awesome. Did you like how we put a lot of the civil engineering companies upstairs in the same area? Simplified things. We started that last year, and the company's kind of like that. There were still several down on the main floor as well. I'm just going to go through three things really quickly. How many of you have a resume already uploaded on BYU Bridge? I noticed that recently fewer civil engineering students are uploading their resumes on BYU Bridge, so I'm glad to see that a few of you have. We have 273 civil engineering companies currently on BYU Bridge. When they post jobs, they're assuming that you, as civil engineering students, are going to see their jobs. And so bridge.byu.edu is where you'll be able to view their jobs. Now, we tell them also that they can go in and they can search resumes by keyword. So they can actually search civil engineering 2018 graduates based on what's in your resume, and they can even put in some keywords if they're looking for particular skills, and they can invite you to come to an information session or to apply for a job. And we've seen that happen quite a bit. I don't have time to share some of those success stories, but I would encourage you at a very minimum to upload your resume on BYU Bridge. It's also a place where you can follow up with the recruiters. So if you met somebody and they didn't give you their business card at the fair, go to BYU Bridge, look up that company, and over on the right-hand side, you'll see a list of recruiting contacts, and see if their name's there, and just shoot them an email, and thank them for the visit and follow up with them. And of course, you can search for jobs and internships on BYU Bridge, and there's also a mock interview module where you can actually practice interviewing and watch yourself. Record yourself and watch yourself answer the questions. And if that's all the practice that you do for interviewing, you'll be able to improve. Most interviewing faux pas are really easy to improve, but you just haven't ever watched it yourself, and so you don't know what to improve because you don't know what you're doing wrong. So practice interviewing by just recording yourself in the interview module. If you have questions about any of this stuff, feel free to come and talk to me, or go over to Career Services in the Will, 2590, and they'll answer questions. My office is in the Clyde building in the Advisement Center, 242. I wanted to talk just really quickly about resumes. It sounded like a few of you had questions about formatting. And so this is not a full, exhaustive resume presentation. I'm just going to give you a few of the highlights based on
responses from 900 employers and what they say they look for on resumes. How many of you right now, if a company said, if you were to walk out in the hall and run into your top dream employer and you stop and talk to them and they said, hey, send me your resume, how many of you would feel confident just shooting off your resume right now to that dream employer? Good, I'm glad there's a few of you that would. How many of you feel like you need to touch it up a little bit and your resume needs a little bit of work? Yeah, that's how most people are. I'm glad that a lot of you are working on your resumes. This is what employers, these are the top things that employers surveyed say they look for in students that they're recruiting. Number one is experience. They want to see what you've done outside of the classroom. So you've got to be able to articulate that on your resume. Number two is education. So make it very clear that you're a civil engineering student, especially if you're looking for civil engineering jobs. Make that very clear to them and make it clear when you're going to graduate. So if you're looking for an internship, it's good for them to see your future graduation date because they can see how far along you are. Some of them like to recruit after the sophomore year, more like to recruit after the junior year. They like to clearly see your skill sets. And you can be redundant with your skills. And so you might, if you have room on your resume, you might have a skills section. And then you might also show how you applied those skills in a project or with an employer. And so you can be redundant with those skills. And then chronological resumes are preferred. And that really should say reverse chronological, starting with most recent. And that's in education. So if you went to 2 universities, start with the one that you're currently attending and the one that you transferred from. With employment, start with your most recent experience and work your way backward. 90% prefer one page, 95% like you to show where you've been, geographic location. That's interesting, isn't it? And 89% like to see your GPA on the resume. What do you think the most common cutoff is for GPA? 3.8, 3.2. 3.0 for engineering is the most common cutoff. 3.2 is the next most common cutoff, and 3.4 is the next. So, I say that because a lot of students don't include their resume because they have a 3.4 and you're used to being a 4.0 student from high school or whatever, and you're kind of embarrassed about your 3.4. I see that all the time. Employers are like, don't be embarrassed about a 3.4. We don't need to have that 4.0. We want to know that you made our minimum cutoff, and then what have you done outside of the classroom, and are you able, what can you show me? They don't really care about the GPA is what they say, but they do use it for a screener. So you're going to have to use your best judgment there. All right, so I wanted to show you an example of a resume really quickly, just looking at some formatting things. First of all, you've got to start with the header. And there's no one right way to do a header. So if we look here, here's some examples of headers. This is your letterhead. Make this part of your resume look really professional and sharp. There's not one right way to do it, but you're going to copy and paste this on top of any document that they ask for from you. So if they ask for a cover letter or a reference page or anything like that, then you brand yourself by having your own letterhead and put that at the top of the page. You want your contact information available, but it doesn't have to be big and bold. And you want to have a professional email address. Frequently we see students that have the same email address that they used in 7th grade because they just haven't changed it. So I've seen soccerbabe@gmail.com. I've seen lots of just funny, goofy email addresses. So check that out and make an alias if needed. And then you've got the education section. Education should usually be listed first for somebody that's just getting ready to graduate, that's still in college. And then at some point you'll flip-flop that with with experience after you get 5 years or more of experience, then you'll put experience first. But for right now, let them see your biggest credential is that you're studying civil engineering. And put your future graduation date over there. Notice the GPA, notice you can, just a few things that might be applicable. I know that you were just talking about capstone. You might put your capstone project there, especially if it's applicable to the job that you're applying for. That can go underneath the education section. And then you get down to your experience. Now, ideally, this is a more typical resume that I see. This is actually a real student's resume, civil engineering student's resume. I changed a little bit of identifying information here, but most students don't have a lot of real relevant experience. My goal for you would be to get enough relevant experience that you can make experience 2 categories. The first one, engineering related experience, and then the second one, volunteer and additional work experience or something like that at the bottom, so they can see that first category first with your good engineering experience. But most students just have maybe one internship or one real relevant experience, so they kind of combine that like this one has done. Do you list your job title first, or do you list the employer first? What's better? Somebody said employer, somebody said job title. The right answer is it depends. Good. And that's the answer to most resume questions. It depends on what?
Well, I mean, if your job title isn't that great, but it's for a well-known company, you would want to put the company first. Whereas if your job title is really great, but it's a lesser-known company, you would want to put your job title.
That's exactly right. Yep, a well-known company, you might list it first. But, however you list it, you need to stay consistent within that category. So if you're listed employer name first, then list all the employer names first. And just stay really consistent to make it easy to read. And then down here at the bottom, you can have a miscellaneous section or a volunteer section. People do value the church service experience like a mission, but it's usually going to be down at the bottom of your resume, and you want to explain that in terms that are applicable to the employer. So not just describing proselytizing and those kinds of things, but instead talking about leadership or multicultural experience or those kinds of things. Okay, and then really quickly, a real common mistake that college students make is their bullet points underneath those experiences typically just describe the job. And what they really want is they want you to go beyond the job. They want to be able to see your transferable skills. They want to see a pattern of success. They want to see impact that you've had on the company. You don't have to use full sentences. So the last look, after you've got your resume looking good, ask yourself, is it clear and succinct? Did I answer their questions? And does it speak to their needs? Now really quickly, no typos. How many of you would submit a resume with typos? Actually, 20% of resumes submitted, according to a study, have typos. So always have somebody look at it. And there's some fun resume blunders we don't have time to read. Have your resume reviewed in 2590 WSC. They take walk-ins. You can go